What's going on, everybody? It's Wednesday, another day in the week. We're almost there to the weekend. Hope you guys are enjoying your week already. This is your Sports Digest. I'm your host, Alex McNinch, once again, back for another episode. First of all, I appreciate all the love and support and all the great, kind messages I received after episode 1. I greatly appreciate it a lot. It means more to me than anybody could ever imagine. I've really wanted to do this for so long, and to see the reception I got was super cool, so I greatly appreciate it. I'm not going to get all soppy and stuff here to start off the episode, so we got a good one today. We're going to talk about the NBA a little bit, talk about the NHL, just overview this kind of stuff, and I'm giving you my promised NFL mock draft later in the episode. That's going to be at the end, so stick around for that. That's going to be a fun one. I know people are looking forward to it. I got a lot of NFL fans that listen to this, but I know we got a lot of NBA fans that listen to this stuff as well. So let's just go ahead and hop right into it. I'm not going to talk too much about the NBA because, like I said, it's a packed episode with the NFL mock draft that comes up later on. But leaving where we left off, yesterday in the NBA, would have been the Hawks and Celtics Game 5, the Timberwolves and Nuggets Game 5, and the Suns and Clippers Game 5 as well. DeJounte Murray got suspended for Game 5 after bumping into and talking crap to a ref after the game, getting into his face. Completely deserved. We saw a lot about DeJounte Murray this offseason, a lot about his character during all those Pro-Am runs and how he disrespected Paolo Banchero and a bunch of other NBA players. So I'm not surprised to see this from DeJounte at all. Glad he got suspended and it wasn't just a light fine, kind of setting a precedent of, hey, these referees are here to guide and set rules, not to be pushed around. So glad they're enforcing the punishment. Boston's probably going to take Game 5 and end off the series here. I'm recording this before the games happen, so I can edit it and get it all posted by Wednesday morning. So I'm sorry if I'm not talking about these games necessarily in depth. We're going to talk in depth about the other ones. Timberwolves Nuggets. I think the Nuggets end up winning this one as well. Timberwolves got a good win. Anthony Edwards just continues to be a good dude and prove himself as a really nice human after rallying the troops to win that game. But I think the Nuggets ultimately pulled it off here at home. And then the Suns and Clippers. Who really cares at this point? Kawhi Leonard's not playing again. This series is pretty much over as long as the Suns can stay the course and continue to play Suns basketball. They're going to go ahead and find their way on to the next round. But about the games on Monday, because those were a little bit more entertaining to talk about, let's go ahead and hop right into let's just go ahead and hop right into Sunday's games because those were a little bit more of the entertaining games. We're going to start off with the Bucks and Heat. Giannis Antetokounmpo returned for this game. He dropped a triple-double with 26 points, 10 rebounds, 13 assists. Brook Lopez had a game high, well, a team high of 36 points. We're going to get to the game high here in a second, which is Jimmy Butler putting up 56 points. And if you remember last episode, I talked to you about Jimmy Butler and how the Heat can win this series is if Jimmy Butler plays like Jimmy Buckets. And Jimmy got buckets last game. 56 points. Here's the shooting splits. 19 for 28 from the field and 3 for 8 from the three. He doesn't shoot threes as much, so I understand it. But 15 for 18 from the free throw line. Jimmy's just going to play efficient. That's what he does. And when he's scoring 56 points, who's going to stop this Miami Heat team? They were down pretty much the entire game, and at the very end made a good little run at the last 4-minute mark, put them ahead. Jimmy just was unstoppable. If he can play like that the entire series, well, they only got to win one more. So if they can play like that in Game 5, Miami's going to go ahead and clinch this one on the road. Although I do think Milwaukee could probably get one on at home, and then it ends back in Miami maybe. The Heat are up 3-1 now. 3-1 leads are very common right now in the NBA. And we'll just go ahead and move on to it because I know people want to hear my thoughts and my opinions on this. And I know we got a lot of listeners from Memphis as well. So we're going to talk about the Grizzlies and Lakers. And boy, oh boy, do I have some stuff to say because I got some response and it's like, man, I'm surprised you really didn't say anything bad or bash anybody on your first episode. I was like, look, I'm just trying to ease into it. And look, the series isn't over yet. The Grizzlies are down 3-1. They lost 117 to 111 in an overtime game against the Lakers in L.A. on late Sunday night. Monday night. Appreciate you guys going super late so I couldn't go to bed at a good time. That's a great start. But I'm not going to completely trash anybody yet. If we lose on Wednesday night, just know that Friday I'm coming out firing. Don't worry about my NFL draft review because I am absolutely going to murder somebody on this podcast. But I'll just briefly go over Dylan Brooks being an absolute waste of a human being on the basketball court right now. He shot 4 for 11, 1 for 7 from 3. He poked a bear. He said he likes poking bears. Well, you poked the wrong one. You poked LeBron James, one of the greatest basketball players of all time, and you have absolutely ruined this series for your team because now everybody's expectations are so high for your team because you're talking so much shit, and now you've absolutely ruined it for your team. Jaren shot 5 for 15, had 14 points. That's not Jaren. He was getting killed in the paint. Desmond Bane he had 36 points, but he went 3 for 12 from 3. Your only job is to shoot threes. He got like 8 open looks of those he's missed, and like that's your job, man. That's your job. You got to hit those shots. John's playing with like 7 fractures in his hand probably. He just doesn't want to tell us. He went 8 for 24 with 19 points. He almost killed himself twice in the game going for dunks and happened on charges. I'm pretty sure Ja doesn't want to live anymore because somebody needs to talk to him because he's just throwing his body out there, and it just doesn't look like he gives a damn at all. The bench has got to be better. Santi Aldama can't be playing any minutes. David Rodgers can't shoot 3 for 10. Luke Kennard's got to play more and shoot more. Tyus Jones has got to step up. He's been talked about as the best backup point guard in the NBA and potentially being a starting point guard. You got to step up a little bit there, Buttercup, all right? I can't be having you only on the court for 8 minutes, and in the 8 minutes you play, you only get 2 points out there. You got to become a better productive player on the offensive end so you can get your minutes up. I don't know what we're going to have to do. Sorry, I forgot to talk about Xavier Tillman. X is just going to do his normal stuff, 12, 8, and 6. I don't have a problem with Xavier Tillman. He's played fine this series. I don't know if we need to throw in Kenny Lofton. I don't know if we need to throw in John Conchar again. I don't know if we need to throw in Zaire Williams, who has playoff experience. But we need to make a change going into Game 5 because I'm not about to lose in 5 games to the Lakers on home court. I'm okay losing in 6, right? But I said this to my friend yesterday. I said that, the pinnacle of LeBron's career was coming back 3-1 against the Warriors in the NBA Finals. What a fitting way for the final chapter closing out of his career. His last true opportunity at the NBA Finals is to blow a 3-1 lead to the next group of guys coming in. And I think we can do it. Maybe. I have faith. I'm a positive person about my team. So I'm always going to feel like we're going to do it. But right now, it's not looking good. We're down 3-1 going back to Memphis on Wednesday night. Briefly talking about the NHL. Games on Monday. The New Jersey Devils tied up the series 2-2 with a 3-1 victory over the New York Rangers. They go back to New Jersey for Game 5. The Toronto Maple Leafs scored 3 straight unanswered goals in the third period to tie it up 4-4 going into overtime, and the Maple Leafs win it in OT. Back-to-back wins in overtime for the Maple Leafs. They will go to Game 5 with a 3-1 series lead going back to Toronto. That place is going to be absolutely nuts. So if you want to catch a hockey game, go ahead and check out Game 5, Toronto versus Tampa Bay, because that place is going to be loud as hell. Vegas beats Winnipeg 4-2 on Monday night as well. Vegas has a 3-1 series lead. That one's probably over, unfortunately, for Winnipeg. Sunday, the games we didn't touch on, the Dallas Stars went into Minnesota and tied the series up 2-2 with a 3-2 victory. The Oilers, they scored, I think, 3 unanswered points and 3 unanswered goals in the third period as well, forced overtime, and ended up winning the game 5-4. That series is tied up 2-2 going back to Edmonton for Game 5, I believe, would be on tonight of where I'm recording. And we're going to talk about the Kraken here last. The Kraken win in OT 3-2 on a Jordan Eberle game winner. That happened immediately after the Grizzly game ended, so my roller coaster emotions was running through the absolute roof. Cale Makar is going to get suspended for Game 5. It was announced after a dirty hit on Jared McCann. Absolute bitch move. I'm sorry I'm saying it. Absolute bitch move. You're one of the best defenders in the NHL. You cannot be putting yourself in that position to hit a defensive guy against the boards and concuss him. That's just a wimp move. Glad you guys won the Stanley Cup last year. Don't lose grass now because the new expansion franchise is coming for it. We're 2-2 going back to Colorado on Wednesday night. That's the NHL. Also happening tonight, the Hurricanes are up 3-1 on the Islanders in Game 5 back in Carolina. That could probably end tonight as well. Wild Stars, Kings, Oilers are happening tonight that I am not going to touch on. Wednesday, Panthers and Bruins. Bruins looking to end the series in 5 back in Boston. We're not going to touch on the MLB. That's just kind of vague right now. Like I said, MLB will be dominated in the summer. College sports as well will be dominated. Nothing new has really come out in the college landscape. I think Bear Alexander committed to USC the night that I was recording after I finished. So that's cool for them. But outside of that, nothing else has happened. And let's just go ahead and move on to the next part of our podcast. All right, moving on to the NFL. We'll briefly talk about Aaron Rodgers. I know that was just a thing that came out on Monday. We've already known that Aaron Rodgers was going to be a part of the Jets for a while now. It was just a matter of time and to see what the compensation for him would look like. But it was reported yesterday by Adam Schefter that the Jets would receive Aaron Rodgers, the Packers' 15th pick overall, and a 5th-round pick, which would be 170. And in return, the Packers would get the 13th pick, a 2023 second-round pick, which is number 42 overall, the number 207th pick, and a conditional 2024 second-round pick that becomes a first-round pick if Aaron Rodgers plays 65% of the plays. And I think it's a good return for Green Bay, honestly. You know, you saw them talk about how they wanted to get 2 first-round picks for him. And, you know, it seemed outlandish. But to get that conditional second-rounder that could turn into a first is a huge thing for Green Bay. It's a great win. You get 2 first-round picks, and you move up a couple spots in the draft. I think it's a win for the Packers and the Jets, obviously. You're getting a Hall of Fame quarterback to go with all your young talent on your offense. But speaking of draft picks, I promised you guys on last show that I'd give you a mock draft of my top 10. I have changed my mind. I'm going to give you guys my top 20 because I feel like top 10, you can only get a certain amount of fans in here, and I know a lot of people are fans of other teams that listen to this. So I want to expand to 20. Give you guys some thoughts on who I think could be picked in the top 20. Some trades being along with it. These are hypothetical situations. These are all my thoughts and opinions on what could and should happen. These would be best case scenarios for say anything happens on the draft board, given the draft night craziness. The NFL draft is Thursday. Once again, Thursday night. The first round will be for Thursday night. ESPN, ABC, NFL Network, whichever network you want to tune into to watch it. It'll be televised on Thursday. The second and third rounds will be on Friday, and the 4th through 7th rounds will be during the morning, daytime, afternoon on Saturday. So I'm going to be in my top 20 picks. There's 31 picks in the NFL draft this year in the first round. Obviously, the 32 is the normal amount due to the 32 teams in the NFL. The Miami Dolphins had to forfeit their first-round pick this year due to tampering and workplace misconduct allegations within the program. So they had to forfeit their first-round pick this year. So we'll have 31. And if you want the rest of my 11 picks after 20 on those teams, just send me a DM. Get in contact with me. I'll give you the rest of them. I'll talk to you about whatever team you may be a fan of if I don't mention you today and you want to talk about it. Send me a message. We'll talk about it. If you have any ideas of who your team like to pick, if you disagree with me and you think you should pick somebody else that's still on the board, let me know. I always like hearing your guys' opinions on what your team can do, because the draft night is one of the most fun nights in all of football and all of sports, honestly. Everybody loves draft night. So if you want those extra 11 picks, just send me a message so you can get all 31. And if you want my full 7-round mock draft, you're going to have to subscribe to my OnlyFans account. So go ahead and do that if you're interested in my 7-round mock draft. But with all jokes aside, we're going to hop right into it. Like I said, there's going to be hypothetical trades that happen within this. But first, Carolina is picking number 1 overall. They're going to stay here, and they're going to draft Bryce Young, the consensus number 1 overall pick, quarterback out of Alabama. I think everybody has known for a while that Bryce Young is probably going to be the guy to go number 1 here. There's a little traction about C.J. Stroud. There's some stuff going on as I'm recording about Will Levis going number 1. Apparently he mentioned to somebody that the Panthers are looking to take him number 1. I don't know how true that is. I don't believe that really at all. I think it's just a bunch of smokescreen. That's just kind of what the NFL draft is all about. It's all a big smokescreen in front of it to try to throw other GMs off and other teams off. But nonetheless, we're going to go Bryce Young here, number 1 overall to the Carolina Panthers. Really like this pick, obviously. The consensus number 1 guy, as I mentioned. A lot of comparisons to Drew Brees. I don't really see that at all. I don't really get it. I guess it's just because they're both shorter quarterbacks, maybe. I see more Kyler. If you wanted to pick a shorter quarterback, an undersized guy, I'd go Kyler because Bryce's ability to escape the pocket and throw on the run is one of the most important parts of his game, honestly. Like, granted, he's a great pocket passer. He's got a great arm talent, great reading of the defense, but it separates himself above everybody else in the draft because of the fact that he can roll out and make those plays on the run off his back foot. That's stuff Drew Brees can never do. So Bryce Young going to go number 1 overall here to the Carolina Panthers. I think everybody's in agreement on that one. Like I said, the number 1 overall consensus favorite right now on all the sports books has Bryce Young. Moving on to number 2. This is where the first trade comes up. And this is originally the Houston Texans pick. And we're going to have a rare in-division trade with the Indianapolis Colts moving up to number 2 to take C.J. Stroud, quarterback out of Ohio State here. So the Colts and the Texans are just going to flip-flop the 2 and 4. Colts move up to get C.J. Stroud, the guy that they want. You'll see why the Texans move down in a second. But the Colts, there's rumors of them moving up to 3 with the Cardinals to make sure nobody else trades up above them to get that player or that quarterback that they want, which would be C.J. Stroud. There's a lot of hype around C.J. Stroud with the Colts. There has been recently. So I like this pick a lot. I like C.J. Stroud a lot. That bowl game, that playoff game against Georgia, he really shined, really played well. There's something about Ohio State quarterbacks, though, when it goes to the NFL and the way that Ryan Day's offense is run at Ohio State. It's very short passing or deep. It's going to be under 5-yard pass or a deep shot over 25 yards, and then a bunch of run. So it's like, how are those quarterbacks going to transition to the NFL because of these certain one reads they're going to have to do? We've seen a lot with Ohio State quarterbacks over the years struggling. Justin Fields is just now finally adapting to how the NFL is run, how he can read defenses, and he's using his legs more than ever. So C.J. Stroud's going to have to do a little bit of a learning curve, but I think with the Colts' new head coach, Shane Steichen, that could be a great fit for him. You see a lot of stuff he did with Philly as the offensive coordinator last year with Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts and C.J. Stroud kind of have like a similar body type, I guess, in the fact that they're both larger guys and built kind of the same. So you can see probably a lot of QB draws. C.J. Stroud not afraid to move on his feet. Sneaky, underrated runner. You don't see him use it as much at Ohio State, but I think if he can figure out how to maneuver the pocket and work around, I think he'd be a good NFL quarterback, and I think this is who the Colts are going to want to take here at number 2 with trading up. Moving on to number 3, the Arizona Cardinals, as I previously mentioned, very popular pick to get traded here, but I think ultimately the Cardinals stay. They're a team that, they had a bunch of injuries last year. Some coaching things obviously went on. They fired their head coach, hired a new one. The defensive coordinator at Philly is over there now, and I think they're gonna, with a defensive guy, they're gonna go defense, and they're gonna go edge rusher Will Anderson Jr. out of Alabama. For a while, everybody thought he'd be the number 1 overall pick, depending on who got it. He was one of the best, if not the best, defensive player in the country a year ago. Everybody was expecting him to be the first overall pick no matter what. Some people were saying he should have won the Heisman his freshman year. with all of his sacks he recorded and how dominant he was on that defensive end. But going into this year, it seems like teams are starting to figure out that you start to double team him, and he gives up on the play. And he doesn't want to work to try to get off the 2 blocks when he doesn't realize that he can use that double block as to his advantage where it opens up other people. He doesn't realize that yet, so he just gives up on the play. But I think in the NFL, he's not going to get doubled immediately. So it's gonna be a great immediate first pick for him, especially with Arizona. You have these edge rushers that always end up doing well. Chandler Jones, Hassan Reddick, now Philadelphia Eagle with the former head coach of the current head coach of the Cardinals, former defensive coordinator of the Eagles, worked well with Hassan Reddick, a former Cardinal. So Will Anderson Jr. is a great pick here for Arizona. I think you can't really go wrong with him here at number 3. And moving on to 4, as we previously mentioned, the trade with the Colts and the Texans. It moves the Texans down to 4, and they're going to get the guy that they were probably going to pick at 2 if they didn't end up trading. But there was a fear of the Colts potentially getting jumped at 3 when they stay at 4. And the Texans are going to take Will Levis here. There's a lot of hype with him going to number 2. As of right now, he is like one of the best odds of going number 2, I guess, on a lot of the sports books. So they know something that we don't, obviously. That's just kind of how it works. They get the inside info. I just use that as my research plot. So Will Levis here at number 4 to the Texans. They got a new head coach in D'Amico Ryans. Will Levis, obviously there's a lot of criticism around him. His college tape isn't the flashiest. It isn't the most exciting. He struggles to read defenses. He's got a cannon of an arm. There's no denying the talent of his arm strength, but everything else around him, it's like he's an older quarterback. Does he really know how to read a defense, especially in the NFL? Can he start right away? But what better place to start in Houston, where they really don't give a shit about what's going on? So why not throw him out there in the fire? See if you got a guy. It's a swing in the dark, just swing in the dark fit pick, sweep the fences, whatever you want to call it. You get a new head coach. You want to take these types of risks, right? Why not see if you can throw something together to get a guy? And Will Levis, he could work out. He could be an absolute bust. That's just kind of how it all goes with everything here, though. Anyways, but I'd be concerned about this pick if I'm Houston. Although I think it could happen, and I think it will happen. I had Will Levis going to them at 12 originally, but recently, with all the hype and all the reports coming out about it, I decided to draft him a little bit earlier on with their first round pick here at number 4. Moving on to number 5, we're gonna go a little quickly here because we don't have as much trades. Number 5, Seattle. They picked Tyree Wilson, a edge rusher out of Texas Tech. Had a lot of hype coming around him through the pro day, the combine. Very good defensive end, edge rusher guy. Super quick, bigger guy. He likes to use his strength to his advantage, bulldozing guys over to get to the quarterback, and very good run defender as well. I think that's a massive part of his game that is not really talked about as much, I don't think, is that he's a very good run defender. So this is a good pick here for Seattle at 5, who needs a guy on that defensive line to really solidify who they are, like their identity as a defensive line. Tyree Wilson could be the guy for the future there. Pete Carroll has a great history with developing guys on that defensive line, no matter who it is. But moving on to number 6, this is the Detroit Lions pick, and I know we got somebody out there who listens to this that is a Detroit Lions fan, and I've been telling them this entire time that they're taking a corner. No doubt in my mind they're taking a corner. But there's a guy that's there right now that at one point everybody thought was going to go number 1 to Chicago before they traded that pick. Everyone did, and his name is Jalen Carter, the defensive tackle out of Georgia. Obviously fell in the draft because of the whole issue with the speeding, the racing stuff that went on that unfortunately resulted in the deaths of 2 people at Georgia, one being a player and the other being a staff member. Unfortunate situation there, and Carter was around the situation that happened and fell down the draft boards immediately, questioning his character, his loyalty, his work ethic. But I think if you're Detroit here with a head coach like Dan Campbell, a guy who pushes his guys to the limits, really makes his team work and helps grow these younger guys into the adults and mature men that they are, I think there's no better place for him to go besides Detroit and Dan Campbell. Plus, he's an absolute freak of nature, massive dude, great pass rusher for a defensive tackle, and just as good on the run as well. It's just going to be a lot of question on will his work ethic carry over to the NFL. I think it can. I don't think there's going to be an issue really at all. But I think this is a great pick for Detroit, if you ask me. That's why I have them going here at number 6 to them. Plus, Detroit has another number 1 pick, or first-round pick, excuse me. So you're not really taking too much of a chance when you're getting one of the best players in the class. And later on in the draft, towards the end of the first round, there's going to be a lot more corners available that are in that range at that value. So go ahead and pick the top guy where you can here, and go get another guy when you can later. But that carries on to number 7, where this would have been one of the guys that I would have taken here with Detroit. Las Vegas has the 7th overall pick, and they're going to take Christian Gonzalez, corner out of Oregon. Everybody believes he's the number 1 corner. It's either him or Witherspoon. I'm going to go with Gonzalez for Las Vegas here. A little bit more prototypical corner, 6'2", 6'1", about 200. Very quick. He's a good corner. Like he's a very, very, very good corner, right? There's nothing that like you look at Christian Gonzalez and you're like, this is the point of his game where he is elite, right? He just does everything very good. And if you're Las Vegas, you've had a history of drafting guys that are just very questionable, and it's time to turn the page on that, write a new chapter, and get a guy like Christian Gonzalez that's going to help solidify that Las Vegas defense, especially when you're playing in a division where Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert are in. You're going to need to get guys in the secondary that can play well, and I think Christian Gonzalez is going to start immediately for this team and be a great factor. This would have been a place where Will Levis would have gone, I think, if Texas were to not draft him. But ultimately, Gonzalez falls into their lap, and I think it's a good opportunity for them right here. At number 8, we have a trade, and this is where it gets a little fun. I'm going a little crazy right now. We're going to have a trade with the Atlanta Falcons, who have the number 8 overall pick. Are going to be trading back with the Tennessee Titans to move up to number 8. At number 8, the Titans are going to go ahead and with a new GM, new offensive coordinator, why not take a chance? Why not try to find your new quarterback of the future? And they're going to draft Anthony Richardson. Ron Cathlon, I'm talking to you right now. I only say this is going to be the draft pick because mainly I don't want to get rid of all my T-shirts and jerseys of Titans in my closet right now. I'm trying to keep this stuff so I'm not wasting all my money I've spent on all this stuff. If you don't know, I used to be a Titans fan. I stopped falling. I fell out of love with the NFL a little bit this past year, but so I stopped really paying attention too much. But if you draft Anthony Richardson, I'm all the way back in with this team. So I have Anthony Richardson going here at number 8. When you look at Richardson, I know there's a lot of questions about his arm accuracy. Can he really make the throws in the NFL if he had such a low completion rate in the NCAA? And as someone who listened or watched him play for every single week last year and on occasions the year prior, it's not as bad as you think it is, right? Yes, Anthony likes to tend to throw at 150 miles per hour at his receivers because he wants to show off his arm strength. But I think one thing you saw towards the end of the season or going down the stretch is he cleaned up a lot of his throws more. His reads were a lot better. He understood that if that pass wasn't there, if that guy wasn't even a slight bit open, he's just going to take off. And I think that's one part of his game that he's going to have to grow on a lot in the NFL. And who better to sit behind than Ryan Tannehill, who kind of plays the same way. If nobody's open, he's not afraid to tuck the ball and go. Or the Titans move on from him. And Anthony Richardson is the starting guy. They also have Malik Willis there, which I don't know if they have full faith in him anymore. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's traded as well. I just think Anthony Richardson's a great pick here for the Titans, mainly so I don't have to throw away all my shirts and I can find a fandom once again. But moving on to number 10, the Chicago Bears have the number 9 pick. The Bears have number 9. They're going to stay put, and they're going to go with Paris Johnson Jr., offensive tackle out of Ohio State. You can kind of go with a couple different picks here at O-tackle. You could even go some other position if you're Chicago, but I think offensive line is going to be your best move here. You got to protect Justin Fields. He's starting to break out. You can see it coming. They just traded for DJ Moore, one of the better receivers in the NFL, to help him out. So why not help him out even more by drafting him a really good offensive lineman? He can kind of play guard if you need him to, but he's going to be good at both tackles. Paris Johnson Jr., another guy that, there's not one thing where he shines at the most, but he's just very good at everything. I think it's a very good pick here for the Bears, especially when you're trying to rebuild this offensive line to work around Justin Fields a little bit more. And at number 10, we have another trade going on, and a rare thing going on here. Bill Belichick not trading back into a draft, but yet trading up in the draft to number 10. They trade with the Philadelphia Eagles, who have this pick via the New Orleans Saints. Eagles traded back. New England trades up to number 10 and drafts Pensacola native Devin Witherspoon out of Illinois, cornerback. Shout out to the hometown, Pine Forest High School. I think this is a great pick for New England. I personally think Witherspoon's the number 1 corner in the class. Maybe that's a little bit of bias from me, but I think he's the number 1 corner in the class. He had one of the best press rates in all of college football last year. He is unbelievable in man coverage, absolutely incredible ball skills. So I think Witherspoon is the perfect pick here for New England. He just fits the New England corner type, a guy who can press really well and deliver big hits. I'm sure everybody's seen that big hit against Indiana where he absolutely laid somebody out on that screen. That clip has gone everywhere. Witherspoon is a hard hitter, but incredible in man coverage. I think he's a great pick here for New England and could really be that guy going forward. The only issue with him is he's a little undersized, but at the end of the day, I think if you got the skill that Witherspoon has, it's not going to matter about your size. But moving on to 11, this is Atlanta's pick now via the Tennessee trade. They're going to stay in-state with this pick, and they're going to pick Nolan Smith, an edge rusher from Georgia. A lot of you might recognize the name Nolan Smith because he was the best guy on that defense probably the entire season, despite Jalen Carter being there. Nolan Smith got hurt this year, but he was one of the better guys. He uses his strength and explosiveness to get that first step on an offensive tackle to get to the quarterback. I think this is a really good pick for Atlanta, where you're going to need guys to rush the quarterback in a division where you're starting quarterbacks right now. If you're to look at it, it's either Baker Mayfield or Kyle Trask, Jameis Winston, or no, actually, it's Derek Carr now. And then Bryce Young, a rookie. So no better way to solidify that defensive line and pressure you can create on these other teams by drafting a really, really, really solid edge rusher out of Georgia. Like I said, staying in state. Who doesn't love a good story where a player gets drafted by their quote-unquote hometown team? Where we move on to number 12 here, where another edge rusher is going to get selected. This time, Houston is back on the clock. They traded back to get Will Levis at number 4, but this time they're going to go to the other side of the ball. And D'Amico Ryan's going to be a little bit more happier with this pick, going with a little bit of defense here. And they're going to pick Lucas Van Ness out of Iowa. And if you know Iowa football, they don't score any points, but they don't let anybody else score any points either. Lucas Van Ness is one of the reasons why. One of the better edge rushers in the NFL or the NCAA this past year. Tested really well at the Combine. Tested really well at his pro day. Really shined a lot towards the end of the season for Iowa. Another guy where, again, he does everything really well. He's a very quick guy, kind of similar to the way Aiden Hutchinson played last year with Detroit. You see him at Michigan, not quite as dominant, but the type of maneuvers and movements he has and techniques he has is very similar to Lucas Van Ness. And if you know anything about the Houston Texans and their history of drafting white defensive linemen out of the Big Ten, it's gone pretty good for them with J.J. Watt. So Lucas Van Ness is a guy to pick here out of Iowa, edge rusher. And then moving on to 13. This 13th pick, as we previously mentioned earlier about Aaron Rodgers, is Green Bay's. But I think that Green Bay drops back on the draft a little bit here. I think they make another trade back. Keep collecting that draft capital, why don't you? They're going to trade here with the Pittsburgh Steelers, their former Super Bowl opponent. And Pittsburgh's going to go ahead and address something that they direly need in offensive linemen. And they're going to pick Peter Skoronski from Northwestern, a guy who can play guard and tackle, has played guard and tackle at Northwestern. He's going to fit this team really well. You basically need anybody and anyone on that offensive line. They need any help they can get to help protect Pickett and Najee and help create holes for Najee. So Peter Skoronski, great pick here at number 13 for Pittsburgh. Just a guy that's going to get it done for you. But moving on to 14, this is now Philadelphia's pick via New England's trade where they got Witherspoon. Philadelphia is going to go ahead and solidify themselves as the favorites in the NFC next year by this pick. This is kind of a shot for me. I think there's been a lot of hype around this idea, and I'm going to just ride it because why not? And I'm going to roll with Philadelphia drafting Bijan Robinson, running back out of Texas here. Bijan's one of the best running back prospects we've seen since probably Saquon coming out. And I know there's this whole fear about running backs getting picked in the first round where you see a lot of these guys that are undrafted, 6th-round picks, 5th-round picks, 4th-round guys being selected and performing incredibly well at the running back position. But when there's a guy like Bijan Robinson, and when a guy says that he studies Barry Sanders' tape and tries to play like Barry Sanders, you go ahead and go get that guy to be your running back. And I understand that Philly is very, very good. But they're just going to get even better by having this pick. They lost Miles Sanders to Carolina, so it's all right. They were going to plan on drafting a running back anyways, I feel, in this draft. So why not swing for the fences at 14 here and get Bijan Robinson when you know he's ready to play? He's elusive. He's strong. He's very good at pass catching. I think it's very underrated for him as well. Bijan Robinson going number 14 to the Philadelphia Eagles. And then moving on to number 15, this is the Jets pick via the Aaron Rodgers trade where they swap first-round picks. And why not? You just got a quarterback. You got one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play the game of football in Aaron Rodgers. So let's go ahead and protect him a little bit. So the New York Jets are going to be taking Darnell Wright, offensive tackle out of Tennessee, a guy who I think at this time last year some people had an eye on of next year, hey, this guy could be one of those mid-round tackles that can really jump up on the board or be a surprise pick. Obviously, we saw Trey Smith, a guy from Tennessee, get picked in the later rounds, I believe the 5th or the 6th round by the Chiefs, and now he's an all-pro Pro Bowler at the guard position. Darnell Wright has gained a lot of traction this year, obviously with the better play by Tennessee and their offense. He's done a fantastic job there playing offensive tackle. And like I said, you just got Aaron Rodgers. Why not go ahead and protect him with a guy like Darnell Wright at 15? Moving on to 16. This is one of those picks. This is the Washington Commanders pick where I really didn't know where to go here. They could have gone offensive line. They could go corner. They can go receiver, tight end. I don't really know where to go with this team. So I'm just going to go ahead and give him a corner. And I'm going to give him Joey Porter Jr. I like Joey Porter a lot. He obviously son of Joey Porter. Joey Porter Jr. is one of those guys that he can play corner. He can play safety. He plays in the slot, play nickel, whatever you need him to do. He's just a really good all-around corner that just does everything right. I know that's the theme of everything I've said about some of the guys where they don't have like a specific skill set, but there's just some of these guys are just very good at everything they do, and that's key when you go to the NFL. Granted, you want to stand out above the rest, but if you're just good at everything, you're going to find a way onto a roster spot. So I'm going to go Joey Porter Jr. here with Washington to help solidify that defense even more. They lost some corners here in the offseason, so keep adding on to that DB room that's already pretty solid, and your defensive line is great as is. And I think they'll address the tight end, wide receiver, offensive line issue in the second round, so I wouldn't be too concerned if you're a Commanders fan right now about not taking an offensive guy in the first round. But moving on to 17, this is now Green Bay's pick that they traded back with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And since Green Bay's trading back, because why not, they're just going to throw another FU in Rodgers' face and go ahead and pick a wide receiver in the first round. Unlike things that they've done before, they're going to go ahead and pick up Jackson Smith and Jigba out of Ohio State. Now, Jackson Smith and Jigba last year during the Rose Bowl game had one of the best games we've seen from a receiver in college football history. Had a lot of hype going around. People were thinking, could he be a number 1 overall pick? Could you really waste a number 1 overall pick on a wide receiver? Had an ankle injury, I believe, the beginning of this year, and then just kind of sat out. And I don't think that sat well with a lot of scouts. Questioning his character, his work ethic again, his team chemistry. Did the guys really like him? He just sat out all these games. He missed out on a college football playoff game because of that ankle injury he had in like week 3. So I don't know the severity of the injury it was. But the fact that he didn't play in that game where he was cleared to just shows something. He sat out for that. He was probably the best wide receiver in all of college football until Marvin Harrison Jr. Took over his spot for him getting hurt. So that's kind of funny how that works. But I think Jackson Smith and Jigba is the number 1 receiver in this class. Excellent slot guy, can also be your number 1. He's got track speed, but incredible hands. I think Jackson Smith and Jigba is a perfect guy to get paired with Jordan Love, the new quarterback for Green Bay. You're going to have a young QB. Why not have a young number 1 wide receiver to pair next to Romeo Doubs out there and kind of counteract the way that both of them play, who they can kind of play a little bit different from one another. But that's a good pick there for Green Bay at number 17. Obviously, they traded back. But speaking of trades, we got to number 18, where the Detroit Lions currently sit. And they're going to go ahead and trade back in the draft again. Like I mentioned earlier, there's a chance that they can get a corner here, but they're going to ultimately trade back a little bit more because the value isn't there necessarily at 18. But they're going to go ahead and trade with a team that also wants to take a wide receiver in the New York Giants. And they signed Daniel Jones to a massive contract extension this offseason. A lot of people were wondering why are you giving Daniel Jones that much money? And it looks like Brian Daboll has a lot of faith in the man. So I'm not going to question anything that Daboll has in mind because he's a genius on the offensive side of things. And they're going to go ahead and go get Daniel Jones a new weapon in Jordan Addison, who was one of the top college football transfers from Pitt over to USC this year. Had a great year. Didn't really get talked about as much just because nobody really stays up late to watch USC football. But Jordan Addison, one of, if not the best route runner in the entire class. Great catching skills. Just a guy who's going to get open. And when you have Daniel Jones, you just got to pray to God he's going to make the throws. And Jordan Addison's going to get open enough for him to make the throws. Addison was being talked about as a early second-round pick, maybe late first. But I think if you're in New York and you have the opportunity to trade up with a team that's willing to move down in Detroit, you go ahead and go solidify the guy that you want to get there at 18. 19 is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And this is kind of an odd place for Tampa. This is kind of in the same situation as Washington, right? Like, do you want to take offensive linemen? Do you want to take a defensive lineman, maybe an edge guy? Do you want to take a secondary member? Do you want to go get a tight end? Do you want to get another receiver? It just depends. Obviously, Tom Brady retired, so they're dealing with Baker Mayfield or hopefully Kyle Trask here. I'm going to be a little biased, but I think Kyle Trask should and can win out that QB battle. He's learned a lot from Tom Brady over the past few years, but we don't need to talk about that right now. We'll do that in our preview before the NFL season. We'll get into that more. But speaking of trying to get to a new quarterback, let's go ahead and protect him a little bit more. Broderick Jones is going to be the pick here, a offensive tackle out of Georgia. A lot of hype around him because he had this massive wingspan, like he's a center in the NBA. I think he's 6'7", 6'8", something. He's just a massive, massive human being. He's going to move people out the way. And after getting rid of your left tackle this offseason, go ahead and bring in a guy that can learn how to play the position. You already have Tristan Wirfs on the other tackle, so why not bring in a guy through the draft where you're not paying him as much as you are another top corner and hoping he can develop and get better. And obviously, he's a Georgia player, so he's got to be good in some capacity, you know. I think that's going to be the pick here for Tampa Bay at 19, although I think I can also see them taking a tight end here as well. But moving on to the last pick of my mock draft here, of the top 20 only. Once again, if you want to see my last 11 picks, just go ahead and shoot me a DM. If you have any questions about your team, just shoot me a DM. We'll talk about it. I don't mind talking. I love talking to you guys about sports, talking to you guys about football. I got some good things in my mind. I want to hear your guys' thoughts as well. And again, if you want to see my 7-round mock draft, onlyfans.com/Alex McNinch. Go ahead and subscribe there. I don't know how much it is. I'll probably make an account for it. Just go ahead and sign up there and make me a couple dollars, and I'll make you holler as well. Moving on to 20, though, Zay Flowers is going to be the pick, a guy we talked about the other day in my last episode as one of the guys to watch out for on draft night. He's going to be the pick here, but he's not going to be going to Seattle, who has the 20th pick. The hometown of the draft, Kansas City Chiefs, Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs, are going to be trading up to number 20 and getting Zay Flowers here. I think Zay Flowers, like I talked about in the last episode, your prototypical slot guy in the NFL, very good size, is a guy that goes up and gets it. And with Patrick Mahomes, you really just need to know how to catch a football, and you're pretty much set to go. Losing Juju Smith-Schuster in the offseason, you're not going to really miss a beat here with Zay Flowers on your team. I think it's a great pick at 20. You're going to send that fans home happy night one in Kansas City. So that's my top 20. Once again, Bryce Young to Carolina, C.J. Stroud to Indianapolis, Will Anderson Jr. to Arizona, Will Levis to Houston, Tyree Wilson to Seattle, Jalen Carter to Detroit, Christian Gonzalez to Las Vegas, Anthony Richardson to the Tennessee Titans, Paris Johnson Jr., offensive tackle to the Chicago Bears, Devon Witherspoon to the New England Patriots, Nolan Smith, edge rusher to the Falcons, Lucas Van Ness, edge rusher to the Texans, Peter Skoronski to the Pittsburgh Steelers, Bijan Robinson to the Philadelphia Eagles, Darnell Wright to the New York Jets, offensive tackle, Joey Porter Jr. to the Washington Commanders, Jackson Smith and Jigma, wide receiver to the Green Bay Packers, Jordan Addison, wide receiver of the New York Giants, or to the New York Giants, Broderick Jones, offensive tackle to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and rounding out with the Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs selecting Zay Flowers at number 20. I hope you guys all enjoyed the draft that's going to come up. It's one of the more fun times, like I mentioned. It's fun to see what your team's going to end up doing. And if any of the guys from your favorite college teams get picked, it's always fun to see those guys. It's a memorable night for all those guys, and it could be as a fan too. So just enjoy it. Know that your team's going to mess up in some way, and you're going to be pissed off. So get ready to overreact with me on Friday's episode after we find out who all gets picked. But once again, I'm your host, Alex McNinch, and today you just got your Sports Digest.